we are going to move on to kitchens. So we're going to learn about how to make kitchens more accessible, both in setup and appliances and devices that are available out there to make a kitchen more accessible. First, we're going to go up with different kind of layouts that will make for an accessible kitchen. Um, the next few drawings again are ADA ones that ADA requires, but again there are kind of good guidelines to go around. I'll explain what all the dimensions are there for. So this first one is we got a kind of a U-shaped kitchen where there's a wall back here, two counters on each side, and then what this requires is 60 inches or 5 foot minimum distance between the two narrowest points of the kitchen. And that again is for a wheelchair that can get in, turn around, and then come back out. Oop. All right. Again, same thing here. U-shaped kitchen, except this time there's a counter along the back wall as well. So same thing, 60 inches or 5 feet between the narrowest points of a kitchen. Here is between the refrigerator and the counter space, since a lot of times refrigerators do come out beyond what the counter depth is. And finally is kind of a through kitchen. So there's no back wall, it just kind of goes into another room, but you just got two counters on both sides. And in this case, since there's no need to actually be able to turn around within the kitchen, you just need to have the space to get through. Then there's a 40-inch minimum distance between the two narrowest points of the kitchen. Alright, next we're going to be talking about different kitchen appliances and what features will make them a little bit more accessible. Mainly we're going to be talking about kind of wheelchair accessibility in these, but again also we can be talking about sitting at a chair and be able to use some of these devices as well. So beginning with cooktops, if you have like kind of a cooktop stove combo, the main thing is just having enough room in front of the stove to be able to access usage of the stove. If you have a countertop cooktop, that's kind of nice because then you can have this roll under area, and again that kind of functions kind of like the roll under sinks and vanities we talked about earlier for the bathroom. So it's at least a 30-inch minimum distance underneath, so a wheelchair has enough room to roll underneath, or you can have a chair that can be placed there and somebody can cook while sitting down, or just kind of having having a little break to sit down at. And the other important feature for these is to make sure the controls are at the front and not at the back. The reason being, especially from a wheelchair or a seated position, reaching for controls at the back can be a little dangerous, because then you're reaching your arms over the burners. So if the burners are on and you're reaching into the back to try and control everything, you risk getting a burn. So controls at the front if possible. Next, moving on to stoves. Again, here what we can do is having a clear roll under area underneath one of the sides of the stove, so that way a person using a wheelchair can roll up next to the stove and maybe have a little bit easier time getting things in and out of the stove. They make some stoves that are a little bit easier to access, because what they have, instead of the door flipping down like this, the hinges are on the side and then it opens up like that, so it might be a little easier to access things inside the oven this way. And again, having a roll under space next to it can be very helpful. Dishwasher, again, like the stove, just the big thing is just having a clear floor space at one of these areas, just to make sure that you can access the racks in a dishwasher. For a refrigerator, the most important thing is being able to reach the handles and the controls. So if there's like an ice dispenser or a water dispenser, that can't be any more than 4 feet above the floor, so that it's reachable from a wheelchair or a seated position. And then for like a top mount refrigerator, just want to make sure that handle is 54 inches maximum at the height. I mean, pretty much everything you find nowadays is going to meet what you need, but that's just something to know, that make sure you can be able to reach the handles from a seated position. Next, we're going to look at roll under counters. So again, having a counter space that which you can roll under is very nice, because then you can do food prep there, or people use kitchens for a lot of other purposes, kind of like a home office. So that gives you that little workspace area, and have some counter space. So having a roll under space is very helpful. Dimensions here, don't have to memorize them all again, but these are some good ones to kind of go off of and remember. So like the bathroom, 34 inches maximum for the height, um, 27 inches minimum for the underside, and then at least 11 inches deep. And your counter space, are usually about 24 inches deep. So, but 17 to 25 inches. And then another way to make a roll under counter space, but still keep your cabinet storage area, is to have some cabinets that actually are on some casters, and they can just roll out. So when you need this roll under roll out area, you just roll the cabinets out, and then you have that space, but then you still have your storage as well. There are also devices on the market in which you can, it's a mechanical device that actually raises and lowers the countertop itself. So you just push a button, it raises it up, or lowers it down. So we're going to look at a few different examples of kitchens, and show you their accessible features. So in this kitchen, there's quite a few accessible features here. The two main ones you can see are the roll under space underneath the sink, and then a roll under space here beneath the cooktop. Another thing you'll notice here, other than like over here and over here, here and here, all the cabinets are lower cabinets, or just sit right on top of the counter. So everything, again, is reachable from a seated or wheelchair position. Over here, you'll see there's kind of a built-in oven. So what's nice about built-in ovens is that they can be installed at a more accessible or comfortable height for someone either using a wheelchair, or maybe doesn't want to bend down to reach something that's safe for your typical stove or oven. And then the last thing here is, believe this is a microwave. We'll show an example of this later on. So this is kind of a pull-out, I believe, a pull-out microwave that can also be a little bit more accessible. Okay, here is another accessible kitchen. A lot of nice features. Again, you got the roll under space here beneath the sink and the cooktop. Roll under space here for different appliances, or it can be used as a prep area or home office. Little built-in wall oven as well. And now a nice feature here is this tilted mirror. So what this can be really helpful for is, to say you're cooking something in a big pot here, and somebody's using a wheelchair, can't really see what's inside the pot from their position. But with this mirror, then they are able to kind of see what's inside the pot and how it's doing. So that is a very nice feature to have in some accessible kitchens. All right, so here are a few more devices that are available on the market to make upper cabinets accessible. So a lot of times you're just, especially in a retrofit, you're going to have upper cabinets, and you don't want to lose all that space just because they're not accessible. So there are some ways to make those upper cabinets accessible. The first one here, these are pull down shelves. So it's a mechanism that you install into the upper cabinets, and then you grab this bottom handle, and then you're able to pull the shelves down to an accessible height. The next one here is something if you have quite a bit of money. This is pretty expensive, but it's kind of cool as well. See these controls right here? You just push a button, and the upper cabinets, the whole things come all the way down, and then they come down to you. So then you push another button, and they go right back up. Again, pretty cool. I'm sure it works really well, but I'm sure that also, or I do know they cost quite a bit of money. And then this last one here is another device where It's another mechanism where you just push a button and the interior shelves just come down to the counter. So um, there's a lot of different ways in which you can make upper cabinets accessible. Now, just a few different appliances that or devices again that to make things a little bit more accessible. This is a pull-out drawer microwave. So instead of having a door that swings open, that sits up on the counter or mounted above the stove, this is one that's kind of a built-in one, and then it slides out. So that can make things a little bit easier for placing things in and out of our microwave. It's not so that way you're not kind of reaching over the door or trying to get it out of the way of the door. With the drawer pull out, that can be a little bit more accessible. Again, we talked about the built-in wall ovens. They're nice because you can install them at an accessible height. Good for people that are either using wheelchairs or somebody who has a hard time, again, bending down to the oven for like a typical stove. And then a lot of them will have this swing or where the hinges are on the side, so it opens to the side, and that can be a little bit easier to get things in and out of the oven than trying to have to reach over the door that flips down. And finally here, so this is a shelf that takes things from the lower part, from the lower cabinets up to the counter height. So lower cabinets can be inaccessible also because getting things from heavy, especially heavy items, from the bottom ones up to the top can be very difficult for some people. So this is a device where you need something from the bottom, and then this shelf will actually lift those items up to you. All right, so review and recommendations for kitchens. If possible, make sure there's enough room to comfortably maneuver around. The upper cabinets at a lower height can be easy to reach and open. So instead of some of those other devices that I told you about, in some cases you can also just lower the cabinets a little bit, a few inches, so that it's at a more reachable height. Loop handles. They're going to be a lot more easier to use. Say somebody has like arthritis in the hands and again has a hard time, squeezing or gripping, then those little knobs may not be easy for them to operate. In that case, the loop handle ones can be a better alternative because then you don't need the grip in order to get the door. You can kind of just slip a finger behind the loop and then that way you can open up a cabinet door. Pull-down shelves can easily bring things down from the upper cabinets. Mechanical products are available that you can electronically bring the shelves down to you. And there's also mechanical products that can bring items from the lower cabinets up higher. Roll under counter or sink provides workspace for a seated person. And roll under space should be at least 27 inches high from the underside and 11 inches deep. And again, those are really nice for having to do prep work or other items, or maybe even like desk work. Be sure to cover water lines, like in the bathroom, cover up the water lines below the sink so you don't get any burns from the hot water. Roll under spaces can be filled with the rollout cabinets. Again, that way you can have roll under space but not lose your storage as well. Products available that can raise and lower a counter are also available. Cooktops with the roll under space can be used by a seated person. Be sure controls are at the front again, so you don't are reaching to the back of the stove or cooktop to turn the burners on and off, and because then you might be reaching over some hot burners. Built-in ovens can be easier to access because they're higher up. Pull-out drawers style microwaves and dishwashers can also be easier to use. And then lever faucets, those can be a little bit easier again for control with hands. Say again with arthritis or trouble gripping, the lever handles are going to be easier to operate than the knob style ones.